So you've joined a D&D campaign and they said they're going to be using Foundry. You've never used Foundry before, or perhaps you've used something else like Roll20 or, I don't know, popular VTT name here. Well, I got you covered. This tutorial is going to be all about how to just get you, as a player, started in Foundry VTT. Before I attempt to convert you to the dark side, let me just add that if you are a GM, I am assuming you have already watched this tutorial about setting up Foundry, and I will be using that setup as the basis for this tutorial. There are a couple important details. We're using version 12 of Foundry, meaning that if you are using an earlier version of Foundry, 1, tell your GM to update, but 2, it might look slightly different. However, most of the functionality is going to be the same. Caveat number 2 is that we are using D&D 5th edition for this tutorial. So if you're using something like Pathfinder, your character sheet and some of the things are going to look different. However, most of the basics like rolling and moving your token around are going to be interchangeable. If you have no idea what I'm talking about and your DM just sent you here, continue on like nothing happened. Foundry is extremely versatile because it allows GMs to really tailor the VTT experience to their players, plus it's only $50 for a one-time license. That means that your GM may have some other modules put into Foundry that I will not be covering because they are able to tailor it to their experience and to their players. I can't cover every single module there is out there. We would be here literally forever and I would probably die of starvation. Instead, if it is something that is module based, I will put a thing on the screen that looks like this, so that you guys know that this may or may not apply to you in your game. However, if their GM followed my tutorial, it should apply to your game. And these are modules that I highly recommend to everybody. Same with a little caveat when anything is specific to permissions. So if you don't have a permission, you won't be able to do certain things. I will put a similar notice down here at the bottom as well, just to let you know that if you can't do what I'm about to show you, it's because your GM did not give you the permission to do that. And finally, I'm not going to go over every single setting in Foundry. You don't need to know every single setting in Foundry to play. Without further ado, let's dive in. So let's start with logging in. Your DM has to give you 2 things. 1, a link. You will also have to have a user setup. That's all on the GM side. When you go to log in, it'll look somewhat like this. Maybe the image will be different. Maybe your description will actually be a description. But regardless, you're gonna find a box and you're gonna try to find your name in here. Click on that. And then you have either a password provided by your GM, or you might have no password. I set up no password on this because it's just a test world. Once you log into Foundry, a new box will come up called the user configuration box. So once you are in here, you can pick a player color. I've selected green. You can put in your pronouns if you would like to, but the biggest thing you need to do is select your player character. So I own Cinder Silverwood, so I will select that and I will go ahead and save. If for some reason you need to access the user configuration again, say you pick the same color as somebody else, say you picked the wrong character, you can go down here and you can see at the bottom here in the bottom right, I have my name as well as Cinder in brackets, which is my player character. I can right click on this and you can see 2 things. You can see a player avatar, which would be my character. You can also right click and go to user configuration, which will bring that box back up. This is what the basic dashboard looks like. What you log into may look slightly different and your DM may have something else set up here. You can hold the right mouse button to drag the screen around as you would wish. You can use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Top, you have the scene navigation. You can toggle this if it's in the way. This is mostly for DMs, but if your DM has something like a world map, you might be able to see it up at the top. The left-hand side is going to be mostly token controls and things to do with the map screen. And then, of course, on the right-hand side, you have all of essentially your information controls. So everything from chat, combat, compendiums, that kind of thing. If you're from Roll20, this will be a very, very similar setup to you. And I think most VTs have a similar token control and information control section. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we're actually going to go ahead and set up some settings. Now, I'm not going to go over everything, but these are some things that I find personally I like to set up as a player. So you're gonna go to the game settings double gear here, and then you're gonna go to configure settings. This will pop up a new box that will look like this. We're gonna go to core settings. On the left-hand side, these are all the modules and things that you can edit as well that your DM may have active. We're not gonna touch any of those, but under core, there are a few things that I personally like. One, I don't mind having the chat bubbles enabled. So if you like to see when one of the other players is speaking, it'll pop up above their token's head. But what does bother me is panning to the token speaker. If you have this box checked, the screen will pan to whoever is speaking, which can get very distracting for me. So I always turn this one off. Scroll to left click to release objects. I like to be able to just left click and deselect things instead of clicking and dragging to deselect things. It just makes things a lot easier. You can go ahead, save your changes if you would like. But while we're in here, I am going to edit one more thing. I don't know any person who uses Foundry VTT that does not have Dice So Nice as a module, but technically this is a module. So if you go to Dice So Nice, you can change your 3D dice settings. This will allow you to set the color of your dice and save it. And then the other thing I like to change is the rollable area. I typically make it smaller, put it up here so that it's not intrusive or in the way because it will roll over whatever you have on your screen. So I put it in this top right corner. We'll go ahead and set that, hit apply in the top right here, and then I hit save changes. Now let's talk about your character sheet. Now remember, I'm using D&D, so it may look different, but your character sheet or your token is going to be under what we call actors. So if you click on here, you can see that my character, Cinder, is in the actor folder. I am not gonna go over creating a character or importing a character from D&D Beyond. I have a whole video, I'll put it on the screen that you guys can look at and watch to get your full character set up in here. Now, I'm just gonna import one. You should only be able to see tokens that you are in control of, unless your DM has allowed you to see your fellow players' stuff. You can click on this, and then your character sheet will pop up. Alternatively, you can hit C for character sheet, or alternatively, if your character is on the map, say it's right here, you can double click and your character sheet will come up that way as well. Again, this may look a little bit different for you, but you can click on any stat anywhere and it will pop up a box asking you about your roll, whether it's normal, advantage, disadvantage, as well as any additions you need to add to it, like a +2 for being in cover or whatever. You can just hit normal and it will roll. You can see my dice roll in that top right corner, and then it'll populate in the chat. If you want to see what rolled on the die, you can click here and see, ew, I rolled a 2, but I added a +2, so it's a 4. A quick tip, I know that for some Roll20 people, you're used to seeing both advantage and regular rolls. Having all of these additional boxes to click is like the #1 complaint I hear, but there is a way to actually make this quicker. So if you hold Shift to click, then it'll roll a straight roll. So straight and shift. If you want to roll with advantage, you hold Alt, so AA, Alt for advantage. And if we click on this box, you can see it picked the higher of the roll, which was still crap. And then if you want to roll with disadvantage, you can hold Control and it'll roll 2 die and pick the lower one. What are these rolls? That's crap. When it comes to attacking, there are a couple things you can do. So under inventory, you can go straight to the item and roll from there. It will put the item into the chat for you, where you can also roll attack and you can also roll your damage here as well. A quick tip, at least for D&D, I think Pathfinder has a favorites section as well. You can take and drag any item and drop it into this favorites area, and then no matter what screen you are on, you'll always have your quarterstaff there. You can also click and drag items onto your hotbar at the bottom. Note you have multiple hotbars, so you have pages of it, and you can add things like spells, etc. down on the hotbar if you would wish. When it comes to spells, it will pop up a new box. So you can see all of mine are legacy spells because this is a 2014 character in a 2024 version of D&D here. But if I click on this spell, a different box will come up. It'll ask you what level, if you want to cast it at a higher level. It'll ask if you're consuming a spell slot, and it'll also ask if you want to place the measured template. You can go ahead and hit cast, and when you do that, here is your measured template. You can click, it would have to be from her because she's burning hands, and it will put that onto the screen for you. You can minimize any box, by the way, by double clicking the top so that you can see and clicking it again to open it back up. If you did not check that box to place the measured template, don't worry. In the right on the chat, you can see there's a new place measure template button. You can also refund the resource. Say you changed your mind and you didn't want to cast this spell, this button would refund me that spell slot. There's also a dexterity saving throw, so say one of your buddies is in your burning hands, they can click on this button and it'll roll against your DC, which for me is 16. Once your measured template is down, please delete it by going to the top left, going to measurement controls, and then you'll see that it now has that spark looking thing here. Hover over it and hit delete, or hover over it and hit backspace and that will delete it. Make sure you go back to your person, people control up here. A side note, in order to be able to bring a token onto a scene like I did, your DM has to give you the permissions to create a token. So in order to do this and drop my token wherever I want, I have to be able to create tokens. And if I want to remove my own tokens, I can hit delete. It will only give you the ability to control your own token or any token that you have ownership in. So if you have something like a familiar, and then you would be able to move that familiar around. Let's also, while we have the character sheet here, let's talk about adding items. So on the D&D character sheet, you see there's an inventory button. I know on Pathfinder there's an inventory button as well. But to add things onto your sheet, you actually need to go to your compendium. So you're gonna go to the top right up here, compendium packs. On this one, I just have SRD content. I didn't put in all my modules, but SRD content should be good enough. So you'll find items down here and you'll be able to pull this up. So say I need, I don't know, dagger. So you can click on this search bar and type dagger, or you can run through everything. You just click and drag and drop it onto your character, and there it is, my dagger on my character sheet. You can equip it and all of that here, but again, this will depend on your system. If you click this force corner icon, it will expand it so you can read it. You can also just hover over it if you're in D&D. You can also create items from scratch. This only works if your DM allows players to create items. That's a user permission. To do that, you're gonna go to your inventory tab. Down at the bottom here, there's a plus. It is in a different place for Pathfinder and etc. But you'll look for something like this. A new box will pop up and it'll allow you to create an item. I find that this is super nice for loot. So say you pick up a trinket from a desk, you're able to rename it as a trinket. You can write in the description here where you got it from, etc. You can hit this save button here and you can go ahead and you will have this in your inventory. Also increase the quantity here. I don't know, 3 of them, the rarity. You can get really in depth with this. You can also change the image of the item. However, this is a user permission thing, so you may or may not be able to change based on whether or not your DM wants you to have access to the files. You might have to be stuck with this little treasure chest, but you can hit this toggle button. It'll put it here, but now you can see down here, I have a trinket. I have 3 of them actually. Rolling dice can also be done manually if your GM allows for that permission. However, they don't have to allow it if they use dice tray. If you have dice tray, you'll see on your chat bar, you can see all of your different dice types down here. Very easily click, you can add your pluses, you can roll with advantage or disadvantage, and then you just hit roll and it'll roll a manual roll for you. It's easier than trying to figure out syntax for rolling manually. Let's talk about moving things on a scene. This is a great learning opportunity. So one thing I pulled everybody to this scene. However, my character has no vision, which is not the case because she technically has dark vision. If you ever have something like this, it probably means that your token is not set up correctly. So what you need to do is go to token configuration up here and change your vision. So this is where a lot of things can be changed, like if you want to allow everybody to see your name. But the biggest thing here is vision. So we're gonna go to vision enabled. So you're gonna change this to dark vision and 60 feet. Now then she can see, of course, in black and white. I edited it so that now it is fully visible for us. To move your token, you can use the arrow keys to move back and forth. You can also use WASD if you're a gamer and you're used to that. You can also click and drag your character to move them. You can long press anywhere on the canvas to ping something. There is also this ruler tool here to measure distance. You can actually use this this, as you can see in this tutorial, to draw a path if you would like to run around. So you click on this tool, you click and drag while still holding down the button. You can hit Control, and then you can keep doing that to make a whole loop. When you're ready to move, you can hit space and it will move all the way around for you. One of the things that trips me up the most is that I'll be in this measurement tool when I want to move my token. So I'll be measuring instead of clicking. So just remember to go back to this if you want to start selecting and moving your token around. The other thing you can do outside of combat is if you need to measure a certain template. So again, we have that circle template. You can move and kind of judge the distance something is from you in preparation for your spells. Just remember to come back in here and delete it. Otherwise there will be circles everywhere and it's very distracting for other players. Let's run through a quick combat. So I've started up a quick combat. To roll initiative, I highly recommend that your DM has this combat carousel tracker up at the top, but if your DM does not have that module, you can see initiative by going into the top right and going to combat encounters. Typically what I like to do is pop the initiative tracker out with a right click. That'll give us a new window with the initiative in it, and then I can still have my chat window up as well, or you could right click on any of these and pop them out instead. Either way, you can roll initiative in the combat tracker by hitting this button. Alternatively, you can also, once combat tracker is up, you can roll from your character sheet. Here it is for D&D. And you can roll it normally. There we go. Or you can, if you have this, click on your head. On your turn, you want to make sure that you target your enemies. You can do this built in with this button on the left-hand side. I highly recommend just hovering over whatever you would like to target and tapping T. You'll see that these little arrows will pop up, and that will give you a visual indication that this is someone you're targeting. If you need to target more than one, you're gonna need to use this select targets button. Targeting does not show anything for you, but on the GM side, it will actually show the GM whether or not it hit, and it will allow us to automatically apply the damage to that target. When you're done with your turn, you will want to hit this end turn button here. That will automatically move it to the next person's turn. If you get hit, you can apply damage by right-clicking on your token, and you can see your HP box at the bottom. You can go ahead and type -4, and that will subtract 4 from your character sheet. You can also do it manually here by clicking in this box and hitting -4. Now we're minus a whole bunch of hit points. Of course, you can also add those hit points back by doing the same thing. While we have this little hotbar up, let me just add a few other things. So here, this will say how high you are. So if you suddenly start flying and you're 10 feet in the air, you will have your height above your head here. These two will bring your token to the front or the back. Say you're standing on a dead body and you can't see or move your token, you can do that. This one here is Torch. This is a module and I highly recommend it. It only works if your character has a torch or candle or light source on them. You can toggle this and it'll light the torch and make it brighter. You can't see any difference really, barely any. The next thing you can see also is a bunch of status effects. This is so you can very quickly add status effects to your character. You can do this as well in the effects tab. This is also great if you need to disable an effect or quickly read what the effects do. Let's talk about journal entries. Again, you have to have the user permission to allow you to create journal entries. You can do so by going to the journal tab and hitting create journal. This is super nice if you want to type up session notes in here. A new box will come up, so this will name the entire journal, and then you can add individual pages like session 1, and then you can write notes in here as you go. Just make sure you hit the little save button here, and then you can close it out and you can see here is our notes. You can collapse the pages like this so that you don't have that sidebar there. If you have multiple pages, you can see them all in one by hitting this button, and then you can just scroll endlessly through all the pages, or if you just want to see one at a time. If your GM allows you to create map notes, you will be able to actually drag these and drop them on screen. You can choose the page or the icon, and as well as what it says. You can update it, and now you see we have a map note. In order to see map notes on the screen, you need to go to the left-hand side, and you're gonna go to this flag, which is journal notes, and you want to use this little pin button to toggle the notes display so that you're able to see it. You can also create map notes from here, which might not correspond to a journal. Again, you get that same box of setup, and you can change the icon. Really great for notating things on like a world map. Again, you can delete these if you have the permissions as well. The other thing that you may or may not have permissions for are the drawing tools. It really depends on how much your DM thinks you are mature or immature, but you can actually use these to draw things like squares. You can double click them to change anything from the color, so the lines, that kind of thing. The other thing you can do is actually write text. So if you want this to have text in it, you say text here. Just note that by default, it will add a solid white color or a solid white line. So you can change the line opacity here, and that will get rid of your line. You can change the fill opacity here to get rid of the fill, and then you'll have just the text. You can also freehand things with this one. So this is a very this one's apparently fill, but you can double click it and remove the fill. And then just do lines. There you go. I don't know what this is. Maybe a cloud, who knows? If you always write a bunch of notes, like text notes or squares, you can always come in here and configure the drawing so that it's always text. And again, delete or backspace to get rid of any notes that you do not want. That pretty much covers everything, but here are just some quick tips. If you watch nothing else, this might help you with basic things. Some of these I've already mentioned. C for character sheet, Shift for straight roll, Alt for advantage, Control for disadvantage. You can minimize any window anytime by double clicking the top bar. I think most DMs also include the module pop out. If that's the case for you, you will have a little thing right here which will allow you to pop the character sheet out, which won't show you anything, but it is now in a separate window, and you can always pop it back in whenever you would like. If you have issues rolling from the pop out window, pop it back in, and that will usually fix it. And then of course there was popping out the chat, so right clicking to pop out anything up over here that you would like so that you can see them. One other final thing is playlists. I don't have any music going on in here, but I highly recommend, even if there's no music on right now, going in and changing your volume to like 5%, because otherwise it gets loud really fast. That's pretty much it. All you need to know to kind of get started in Foundry. I'm sure there's plenty of other things we could cover as well, but I just wanted to go over some of the basics, try to keep it short and sweet for you guys. If you have questions, comments, concerns, drop them in the comments down below, and maybe I can help you or someone else in the community can give you tips on how to use Foundry as well. Thank you so much to all of my Patreon supporters. If you would like more content like this, I mean, you'll still get it even if you aren't a patron, because I feel like if I'm putting out good stuff and you guys like it, then, you know, you will choose to support me if you can. But if you do support me on Patreon, you also get a few extra videos each month where I, you know, just kind of vlog about what's going on in the Cantrips media world. There's also things like maps, and the magazine stuff is released that way as well. So consider joining the Patreon if you would like to support me, as YouTube really doesn't pay. If you don't like subscriptions, you can also always buy something from the Cantrips Media Shop. That also goes directly to me. Well, also suppliers, because, you know, I have to buy the materials to make those notebooks. And if you are interested in playing D&D, I've opened up my West Marches campaign. So if you are looking to play with some random people you've never met before online, that's not selling it very well, please go join the Discord. All the information about my West Marches campaign is posted there. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!